Another year, another early playoff exit for the Lakers, this time as the 3rd seed, losing to the 6th seed. Why couldn't the Lakers beat the lower seeded Timberwolves? This roster is as flawed as we initially thought when the Lakers traded for Luka Doncic. JJ Redick looked more like a rookie head coach and far from the next Pat Riley in this series. LeBron is too old to be relied on as heavily as he is. Not having a center killed the Lakers. And the Timberwolves are just a much deeper team, and they got hot at the right time, winning 17 of their last 20 regular season games and carried that momentum into the playoffs. I'm starting with LeBron. He is not the basketball savant that a lot of you think he is. He's not even close. Oh, but he's 40. Don't act like he's 65 when it's convenient. If you want to rave about how amazing he still is at 40, which I will tell you myself, I'm actually very impressed with, but that gives him every reason to not get a pass for any shortcomings. Was LeBron terrible in this series? No. He has played much worse than this in the playoffs before, but was he good enough? Also no. His stats look great, but in the 4th quarter, he was a no-show. Remember all those 4th quarter jokes from 2011? Never ask LeBron for a change for $1 because he'll only give you 3 quarters. No question he was a lot worse in the 2011 finals than in this series, but how much of a no-show he was in the closing moments of this series sure gave me flashbacks of those 4th quarter jokes from back then. What the hell were you doing shooting a fadeaway 3 with 11 seconds on the shot clock only to hit the side of the backboard, Mr. Always make the right basketball play? I knew the whole time, even after he made 3 straight threes in the 4th quarter of Game 3, that it was a fake comeback because I've gotten so used to it. Oh, in this play, I thought he was a wide receiver in high school, one that would have made the NFL if that was the path he chose, yet he couldn't catch a pass that was right in his hands with 5.5 minutes left in Game 3. Even worse, not getting back on defense. Not getting back on defense after turning the ball over is never okay under any circumstances, period. LeBron only scored 5 4th quarter points on 2 of 9 in games 4 and 5 in this series, and the last 2 points he scored, nice stat padding there. I will blame JJ Redick too for not making 1 substitution in the 2nd half of game 4. I'll talk more about that later, but LeBron is not above criticism at all. How about at the end of game 3, LeBron laughing with Anthony Edwards while about to go down 2-1 in the series? Where's the sense of urgency?
Is this your game?
If he wants to chase milestones over his 5th ring, please do that somewhere else. I know he's here to stay at least another year, but I'd really rather him chase milestones somewhere else if that's truly what he's still playing for at this point. Anyone coming here to defend LeBron, you should know how us Laker fans are, alright? Those of us who grew up with Kobe or are old enough to have seen the Showtime Lakers, or those who are old enough to remember Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and Wilt Chamberlain, we celebrate winning. We don't celebrate stats. LeBron has put up great stats as a 40-year-old, and with all due respect, it's not worth celebrating because it's not leading to winning. You have to close games out, and he has not done that. When the Lakers blew a 3-1 lead to the Suns in 2006, did anyone care that Kobe averaged nearly 28 points per game in that series and scored 50 in a Game 6 loss? No! The only things that get remembered are that he only attempted 3 shots in the 2nd half of Game 7 and that he blew a 3-1 lead. Mind you, his team was the 7th seed and didn't have nearly the help that LeBron has. Or who talks about his 32 points per game in the playoffs the following year only to lose in 5 games against the Suns again? Or in 2012, his last playoff appearance ever, he averaged 30 for the 12 postseason games that the Lakers played and 31 in the series they lost to OKC. Have I ever seen anyone celebrate that? No. I'll take his 6 for 24 in Game 7 of the 2010 Finals over all of that. Why? Because the Lakers won and Kobe found other ways to contribute by getting 15 rebounds, playing defense, and making big free throws down the stretch. At the end of the day,
You play to win the game.
period. Lastly, I've heard it for years that LeBron can guard 1 through 5. Well, how is Rudy Gobert able to dominate the way he did in Game 5? And he got plenty of those points on LeBron, so I never want to hear it again that LeBron can guard 1 through 5, because no, he can't, and he's never been able to in his career. Even in 2013, when LeBron was still 28, Roy Hibbert, who was even less skilled than Rudy Gobert, scored 22 points per game in that conference finals. Why didn't LeBron do anything about that if he can guard 1 through 5? LeBron has never been a guy who can guard 1 through 5, so I never want to hear that again. Now on to Luka Doncic. Clyde Drexler and Rasheed Wallace are still the only two high-profile midseason acquisitions to win a championship in the year they were traded. Luka sure won't be the third guy to ever do this. We saw this as a trade for the future instead of right now from the very beginning anyways, but we still have to talk about Luka's shortcomings in this series. As wrong as the Mavericks were for trading their young superstar, and as much of a spit in the face to their fans as it was, there is truth to why he was traded. He is lazy on defense. We saw it in last year's finals, and we saw it again in the playoffs this year. Things like missing a layup, then being the last one back on defense, no attention to detail, and not picking up the trailer who contested his shot when everyone else on the team is matched up with someone and that trailer knocked down a 3. You can't let this happen as the guy the Lakers brought in to be the face of the franchise for the next 10 years. Whether he was on Ant-Man, Julius Randle, or even Jaden McDaniels, who's never been a reliable scorer and only a great defender, Luka was getting cooked left and right. He often gives James Harden a run for his money for his terrible effort on defense. Luka may have been under the weather for Game 4, but he suited up to play, therefore he has a job to do, and he didn't do good enough. Not even just on defense, but on offense too. He may have scored 38 points, but he had 4 turnovers and was 1 for 6 in the fourth quarter. Some of this is on JJ Redick too though, for not letting him or the other 4 guys he played in the second half get any rest, but Luka's not above criticism, especially as a superstar, and his shot selection is terrible at times. He's not getting any separation on his step back threes. All this said though, the Lakers are his team now. Luka did get more shot attempts than LeBron as a Laker this year, which is the way it should be. I think LeBron is okay with handing Luka the keys, much like Dwayne Wade handed him the keys in Miami. He has to be when he's 40 and Luka's 26. Besides, Dwayne Wade means way more to the Miami Heat than LeBron will ever mean to a storied franchise like the Lakers. One thing for sure, Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves taking turns with one another is only going to work to an extent in the regular season. It'll never get you deep into the playoffs because this style of play is just too stagnant and you can't get in a rhythm against better teams. Speaking of Austin Reeves, I initially said I'd rather have traded him than Max Christie, and it had nothing to do with Reeves' ability. It's because I didn't think Reeves was a good fit alongside Luka and LeBron. He seemed to prove me wrong for a little while, but in these playoffs, which is obviously more important than the regular season, I was reminded of exactly why I would have rather held on to Christie. Christie doesn't need the ball as much, and he's a better defender. Before Luka made his Lakers debut, Reeves averaged 19.2 points per game on 45% from the field, and since Luka's debut, he averaged 21.9 points per game on 47.5% from the field. The playoffs were a much different story, where he averaged just 16.2 points per game on 41% from the field and just didn't look comfortable taking catch and shoot threes, which is not a problem Christie has. Now for JJ Redick. For the most part, I liked the job JJ has done this year, or should I say his staff. The very first game of the season made me believe the guys want to play hard for JJ. He coached a terrible series here, and it started with game 1 where he admitted that the Timberwolves were hungrier than the Lakers. Your number one job is to have your team prepared. Then in game 4, 0 subs in the second half? What do you think this is, soccer? No coach in NBA history has ever done that, not even Tom Thibodeau, for crying out loud. You don't even have one Wilt Chamberlain, let alone 5 on your team. Someone you know nothing about, by the way, based on how much you want to go to the grave with how much better today's NBA is. Nobody in today's NBA has anywhere near the endurance that Wilt had. Certainly not the oldest player in the NBA. yet you played him and 4 other guys on this team as if you had 5 Wilt Chamberlains. The life of me will never understand the thought process there. Who knows if the Lakers would have won the game even if he did make 1 substitution in the second half, but to not make any and coach the game like there's 5 Wilt Chamberlains is just insanity. Even as well conditioned as your 40-year-old still is for his age, this was still a terrible idea to not even let him rest for even a second in the second half of game 4. If you really do talk to your assistants before every substitution, what were you all thinking? Or why were you letting Luka switch on to Anthony Edwards so much? Okay, no one on the Lakers can guard Ant-Man, but to allow your worst perimeter defender to get switched onto him this much, are you serious? Or because you knew what Luka did to Rudy Gobert in the conference finals last year, you tried way too hard to make that happen again, and this time the Timberwolves were just a lot better prepared for it. Or how you just threw Maxi Kleber into game 5, even though he hasn't played a single game for the Lakers this season. That couldn't scream desperation any louder. And why was Gabe Vincent ever guarding Rudy Gobert? I get it that he has no offensive skill and he's just a big body, but you cannot have a guy who's just 6'3" under the basket trying to stop a guy the size of Rudy Gobert. That's just not going to work. JJ may have won 50 regular season games, something the Lakers haven't achieved since 2020, but the playoffs are where you actually make a name for yourself, and so far, he is not even close to the next Pat Riley that he was being dubbed as before coaching a single game. I'm not advocating for JJ to get fired though, no way after just 1 season where you ended up with the 3rd seed in the West, but he sure did not coach a good series and hopefully he can learn from this. Fun fact by the way, Pat Riley was a Lakers assistant coach before becoming the head coach, not a podcaster. I don't know what made anyone think that this was such a great comparison. Even when I found JJ and his staff to be doing a really good job, I certainly never thought of him as the next Pat Riley. Win some championships, then let's talk. Now, we knew all along that not having a center outside of Jackson Hayes was a recipe for disaster. Hayes is a non-skilled big man. He's just good for running the floor and feeding lobs to on offense. He's not bad as a rim protector, but when he's that limited offensively to the point where you can't trust him for a whole second half and then an entire elimination game, you cannot make a deep playoff run with this guy as your starting center. This is something the Lakers need to address immediately this offseason. To make Rudy Gobert look like Shaq in his prime in game 5, to even have Shaq himself say this.
Thought I would say these words that are about to come out of my mouth, but Rudy Gobert is dominating.
That's embarrassing. You should have thrown in Hayes at some point for any chance at containing Gobert because Dorian Finney-Smith and LeBron couldn't do any better. I'll keep it short about Jared Vanderbilt. As great of a defender as he is, I'm having doubts about whether he can really be a rotational player on a championship team or not. He's just too limited offensively to really be trusted against better teams. Rui Hachimura is the one guy you really couldn't have asked more out of. The Lakers on paper look more top heavy with Luka and LeBron versus Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, but Ant outplayed both Luka and LeBron, and the Timberwolves are just a deeper team. Naz Reid single-handedly outscored the Lakers bench 58-55 for the whole series. That is unacceptable. Gabe Vincent needs to go. He is terrible without heat culture. Just get him out of here. Send him out like... Jordan Goodwin too, he's just barely an NBA player at best. So now I'll talk about the Timberwolves before I wrap this up. The Timberwolves seem to be written off because of their seeding despite only being 1 game behind the Lakers record-wise, even while we knew they were starting to get hot at the right time, winning 17 of their last 20 games in the regular season to go from the 8th seed to the 6th seed and completely avoid the play-in tournament. The last 7 regular season games, Anthony Edwards averaged 31 21 points per game while shooting more efficiently and turning the ball over less than he has for most of the season. He has carried that momentum in the playoffs, and nobody on the Lakers can guard him, period. Before the season started, as we all know, the Timberwolves traded one perennial playoff choker in Karl Anthony Towns for another in Julius Randle, along with a 3-and-D presence in Dante DiVincenzo. Randle and DiVincenzo struggled to fit in early on, and Cat has been the easier one to play with because he doesn't over-dribble, makes quicker decisions, and is a way better passer and shooter than Randle. DiVincenzo also struggled early on, away from his college buddies on the Knicks, but him stepping up his play was a reason that the Timberwolves won 17 of their last 20 regular season games to avoid the play-in tournament. Randle has flipped the script about his playoff reputation in this series on both ends of the floor, and he's not even known for being a defender. What we do know about him though, even with what Cat does better than Randle, Randle is definitely the tougher player than Cat. But make no mistake, the greatest 6th seed of all time is still the 1995 Houston Rockets. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. This year's Timberwolves are arguably the best 6th seed that I actually remember watching, but in the history of the NBA, the title of the best 6th seed ever still belongs to the 1995 Houston Rockets. Who do you think the Lakers should go after in the offseason, and how far do you think the Timberwolves can go in the playoffs? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. If you want to see more from me, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications to never miss out. If you're already subscribed, thanks so much for your support as always, and if you're a new subscriber, welcome to the team. Links to my social media are down below for my more immediate reactions to what's going on in the sports world. If you'd like to see my most recent video and the one that YouTube recommends, both are up above. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.